The restored and refurbished Michigan Central Station reopens this week with a star-studded concert.
Lots of excitement. This is a big deal for the city of Detroit. For the longest, that building was a symbol of the city's decline. Now it represents a rebirth.
Joining us today is Richard Hess, principal with Quinn Evans, which is the architecture firm that transformed the station. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, we're glad to have you. So you've been on this road to restoration for more than a decade now. How does it feel for you to get to this point?
It's very surreal, to be honest. Certainly there were many years that we never thought this day would happen, but it's an amazing feeling, and it's amazing just to see the sense of excitement that is in the city right now for what we've been able to do with Michigan Central.
So since the late 80s, it sat abandoned. When you first arrived more than 10 years ago, what were you looking at? I mean, that had to feel like a daunting task.
It was in many ways. There was no power, no lights. It was an abandoned building, very dark and flooded with over 3.5 million gallons of water. So the question we get a lot is, where do you start with something like that, right? And we just, piece by piece, how do you get the water out of the building? How do you dry the building out? And you just start one space at a time to get it done. So.
How do you go through the process of creating those upgrades while also still respecting the history of that building so you can still kind of see that basic foundation and structure?
Well, that was really the challenge, right? Because we want to preserve and sort of respect what's been there, right? All the stories and rich history of Michigan Central Station for over 100 years. But it's really about setting the stage for the next 100 years, right? The next generation of viewers and the activation and really the potential for Michigan Central and its relationship with the city moving forward. So integrating new technologies and innovation is something that has actually been part of what we've had to do over the last 6 years with Ford Motor Company, is figure out how to do that. And once you're in the space, right, it's really it's great to kind of understand that the infrastructure that's there, the information technology, security, just mechanical systems, electrical systems, all of that is integrated very much so behind the scenes that you don't see in the grand hall and the waiting room and ticket lobby.
Yeah, I think sometimes it's easier for those of us who are not architects to kind of take this kind of thing for granted. You can walk past an amazing structure. So help us out a little bit, whether you're looking at a distance or you are there inside Michigan Central. Right. What should we pay attention to? What should we look closely at and appreciate?
Well, you know, I think one of my favorite elements is right there in the ticket lobby, which is just past the Grand Hall. You'll see these Mankato stone columns, and most of those Mankato stone columns are still the original columns that were there, and they haven't really been patched. They've been cleaned up, but you can see the patina and the sort of deterioration over time, which is a great complement to a lot of the new work that's taken place there. You know, and then just standing in the Grand Hall itself is an amazing feeling, right below the chandeliers, which are actual replicas of the original chandeliers that were constructed 100 years ago. And it's an awe-inspiring space just to stand in the middle of it.
We've often said here that this is a great time to be in Detroit. There's so much that's happening, so much positivity, so much rebirth. What does this add to just the overall change, the positive change in this city?
I think it's just another great example that Detroit's not stopping and nothing will ever get in our way, right? I mean, we are a city of innovators and doers, and this is just another step forward.
Yeah. Come Thursday, when we have this incredible star-studded concert coming to town, what do you imagine that's going to be like? I know this whole week is kind of surreal for you.
I think it's going to be a little overwhelming, but certainly a nice sort of exclamation point, if you will, to what, as you mentioned, over a decade of working inside Michigan Central Station.
And what are you looking forward to in the days after the celebration? The fact that there's still going to be people from all over the world really coming to see this space.
Right. Rest. Getting some rest is going to be much needed. No, I'm actually looking forward to seeing the next chapter. There's still a lot of work to be done to actually getting people inside the station, the activation of the station and the office space and the retail environments, and really that sort of next generation of its meaning. And you know, Michigan Central Station has always been a building not like many others, that is all about stories. You know, so many people have a story to tell about Michigan Central Station, and I'm really interested in hearing the next chapter and the next generation of stories that people can tell.
Yeah, on that note, there was that infamous story, that cover of Time magazine years ago that called Detroit a tragedy. What kind of message do you think this rebirth is sending, not only to everyone in Detroit, but to the rest of the nation?
Well, I think it's, you know, Michigan Central has always been a symbol of, you know, sort of our ingenuity and creativity and industrial powerhouse, right? And I think, you know, just don't count us out. We've got a long history ahead of us too.
Yeah, don't sleep on Detroit.
Yeah,
Right.
and we're just getting started. Richard Hess, thank you for joining us.
Thank you
Appreciate
for
it.
having me. It's been a pleasure.